Have you ever felt like you are quietly living between two worlds? One is the visible, noisy, demanding world of society, of deadlines, data, and practicality. The other is invisible, subtle, symbolic, sacred. It's a realm of images, dreams, and premonitions that only you seem to notice. If that sounds like you, you may be what Carl Jung called the introverted intuitive, a rare psychological type who lives in close contact with the unconscious, who senses meanings that haven't yet taken shape, who sees patterns before others even sense change. But here's the catch, and the warning. Jung believed this personality type walks a razor's edge. If they cannot give shape to what they sense inside, if their visions remain unexpressed, they risk being overtaken by those very images. The gift becomes a burden, the vision becomes a vortex. In today's video, we're diving deep into this psychic reality, what it means to be an intuitive introvert, what makes this path so difficult, and how you can protect your soul from collapse while honoring your inner truth. This message is especially for those in midlife or later, the time when Jung believed the soul demands to be heard. Because while the first half of life is about building a persona, the second half is about integrating the self. So if you've ever felt strange, isolated, or deeply different, and if you sense that your inner world is vast, sacred, and at times overwhelming, this may be the video you didn't know you were waiting for. Let's begin. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, spent decades mapping the inner architecture of the human psyche. One of his most fascinating contributions was his theory of psychological types, especially the function known as introverted intuition. Unlike extroverted intuition, which scans the external world for emerging possibilities, introverted intuition is directed inward. It perceives unconscious images, psychic potentials, and symbolic truths that aren't immediately accessible to the senses or logic. An intuitive introvert might sense when a relationship is about to shift before anything obvious happens. Feel the presence of a deeper meaning in a casual conversation. Receive insights in dreams or flashes that others dismiss as weird. Jung himself described these individuals as difficult to understand even for themselves. They operate on an entirely different frequency. Where most people need facts, they need meaning. Where others want proof, they feel conviction. But this gift comes with alienation. Often these individuals are mislabeled as too sensitive, too intense, or simply too different. They may grow up feeling misunderstood even by well-meaning parents or teachers. Their deep inner life is rich, but often invisible. If you're someone who has always felt like an old soul in a noisy world, who prefers symbolic depth over small talk, and who feels pulled by invisible threads, you may be living with this rare function as your dominant guide. And it's a powerful gift, but only if you know how to use it. To be an intuitive introvert is to carry the ability to sense what is not yet visible. You can perceive undercurrents in people and systems, foresee outcomes, and feel the subtle shift in energy before anyone else notices. But here's the problem. Society doesn't value the invisible. It doesn't reward premonitions or symbolic perception. It asks for proof, performance, and productivity. This mismatch creates what I call the gift gap tension, the painful space between what you perceive internally and what others expect externally. One woman I spoke with, a retired therapist in her 60s, once said, "I always knew when something was about to go wrong with a client, but I could never explain how I knew. It made me doubt myself even though I was almost always right." This gap leads to isolation. Eventually, many intuitive introverts simply stop speaking their truths. They keep their insights to themselves. They retreat into their symbolic world, not because they're antisocial, but because they've been dismissed too many times. But silence has a cost, and we'll explore that next. Jung warned, what is not made conscious becomes autonomous and can take over the psyche. When intuitive introverts suppress their visions, when they don't give expression to what they see or sense, something dangerous happens. The images begin to live a life of their own. What starts as symbolic insight can mutate into obsession. What begins as intuition can spiral into disconnection from reality. Jung saw this in many patients who lived with vivid dreams, powerful internal narratives, and archetypal experiences, but no outlet for expression, no grounding, no integration. That's when the dark warning appears. The person begins to live not in reality but in a private, symbolic loop, believing they're on a divine mission or chosen for some prophetic task, what Jung called archetypal inflation. And that's the danger, not intuition itself, but unexpressed, unbalanced intuition. So what's the way out? Let's go deeper. The human psyche cannot digest symbols without form. If the intuitive function isn't balanced by sensation, the function responsible for contact with the body, the now, the material world, it becomes abstract, overwhelming, even delusional. This is what Jung described as inflatio, when the ego becomes inflated with unconscious material, especially powerful archetypes like the prophet, the martyr, or the visionary. At first, these images inspire. They give us a sense of purpose. But if we over-identify with them, if we believe we are them, we lose perspective. Some common signs of archetypal inflation: believing others are less evolved because they don't understand your vision, feeling that you're always right because your intuition says so, dismissing criticism as persecution. These patterns often begin subtly, but over time they can cause deep fragmentation. The intuitive introvert becomes a closed system, unable to tolerate contradiction, incapable of adjusting to reality. And yet, there is a beautiful alternative. Let's look at it. What protects the intuitive soul from collapse? Expression, embodiment, integration. The visions must be brought into form: a painting, a journal, a garden, a ritual. This isn't about art for art's sake, it's about survival. Jung said the unexpressed symbol becomes a foreign body in the psyche. If you don't externalize it, it grows autonomous inside you, but when you bring it into the world, it becomes medicine. Kafka turned his alienation into literature. Van Gogh transformed his inner storm into color. Even Jung used painting, carving, and writing to process his visions. You don't have to be a genius, you just have to be authentic. And even more, you have to anchor your intuition in the body. Simple acts like walking, cooking, caring for plants, or building something with your hands can reconnect the intuitive type to reality. The psyche doesn't just need vision, it needs rhythm. Perhaps the greatest challenge for the intuitive introvert, especially in later life, is this: how do you stay faithful to your symbolic vision in a society obsessed with the measurable? Modern life rewards metrics, not meaning. We value productivity over poetry, explanation over insight. For the intuitive introvert, this creates chronic tension. Do I speak what I see, or keep quiet to fit in? Do I stay true to my inner compass, or conform to survive? This tension isn't a flaw. Jung saw it as the very battleground of individuation, the process by which the soul becomes itself. To live symbolically in a rational world is an act of courage. It's not about convincing others, it's about embodying your truth gently, consistently, and with grace. Everyday rituals can help: lighting a candle in the morning, writing down dreams before they vanish, saying no to people who dismiss your depth. You don't have to be loud, but you do have to be loyal to the quiet, deep truth that lives inside you. If you've made it this far, chances are this message stirred something old, sacred, and half-forgotten within you. Maybe you've been living with this depth for decades. Maybe you silenced your truth because no one around you could hear it. Maybe you're just beginning to understand the beauty and the danger of your intuition. Carl Jung believed that the second half of life is when the soul demands to be honored. This isn't a time for pretending, it's a time for integrating. So here's the lesson: your intuition is not a flaw, it is a calling. But it must be balanced, it must be grounded. You are not here to escape the world, you are here to weave your inner world into it. So, create, speak, move. Don't carry your visions alone, share them. Because your voice, your vision, and your presence matter more than you know. If this message touched you, leave a comment below. Share how you've lived with this gift and this burden. Like this video if it resonated. Subscribe for more content rooted in Jungian insight and soul-centered growth. Share this with someone who needs to know they are not alone in their inner world. Thank you for watching Inner Eye's journey. Your soul is welcome here. See you in the next video.